Right, today on Make or Repair we're dealing with something a little bit different. So this belongs to a family member who dug it out of a cupboard, and it's an old camera. And as we can see, it's a Kodak Instamatic C33 in its case. The case is in pretty nice condition. I'll just put my kind of hand over the label there. And this takes a 126 film. So I'm going to pop it out of the case. And put the case to one side. The case is, I don't know that it's real leather, but it's in nice condition. The camera itself is a little worse for wear, so we've got a fungal or mold type thing going on the top here. Hopefully that will just clean off. But the shutter doesn't work. Now this has got a bit of 126 film in, but it's very old. This is Boots film in there, and yeah, I think the last manufacturing date of this film was 2008. It's now 2022, so yeah, you can do the maths on that. And about half the film was used. Now I have managed to take the film out, and as you can see, it's just a cartridge film, but it wouldn't wind on at all, and also the shutter won't release. So yeah, I'm not really sure that this is worth trying to develop. So to remove it, I did kind of have to expose just the last sort of frame to the light, but that's not too bad. So it does have about half a film worth of images on there, but of course the process chemistry is quite expensive now. So I could buy some C41 process chemistry and give this a go, or we could kind of send this off, but it'll cost £18–20 or so to develop and print, and probably all we're really going to get is a lot of indistinct purple colour cast photographs. So yeah, the owner will have to decide whether they want to do that or not. Anyway, this leaves us with the camera, so it won't wind on. Its shutter is shut, so we can kind of see that, so that's sort of all right. Now it does sound like that's actually working, but in fact that's the reverse direction of the, what's the word I'm looking for, the ratchet mechanism, kind of, well, the non-return mechanism on here, so you can kind of slide it back and then move it forward, back and forward. Yeah, so that's no good, and I can't free that up. Now another thing that should work is there's a small lever just here. So just here there is a little lever, and we would expect that to move or indent as we close the back or put a film in, and that is not happening at all. So the actual mechanism itself feels to be frozen. Okay, so let's take the clip off to begin with, just to get that out of the way. And I can see a few screws kind of holding stuff together. Can't really tell whether that's a posi or a Phillips. It actually looks a little bit like a posi drive. So I am kind of working in the dark here, and confidence is low. Okay, you can see that comes out from the front now, not the side, but there's another one tucked away in here at a rakish angle. So that just takes the back door off, nothing much going on there then. But it does make it a lot easier to clean, of course. One on the bottom. So the ones around the outside of the case seem to be countersunk. The ones on the inside of the case are all different sizes. So this is a short one. So we just set out the card as though it is the camera. Okay, so we can see the mechanism in here, this sort of non-return mechanism job here. Very simple. There's our hidden screw. Every single screw on this camera is a different length. So this is like a metal trim, and I'm trying very hard not to distort it. Great. Okay, so the mechanism this side that I've just managed to reveal is just the door opening mechanism, and it seems to be in nice condition. The springs and everything are working absolutely fine. Let's see if we can get the top off. It's kind of levering free, but it doesn't want to come off fully. Okay, glued on. That didn't help. But at least that part is now removed for cleaning, so that's something. And there's another screw just there, below the glue surface, of course. Now, fingers crossed, it will come apart. There we go. Lovely. So let's see what we can see. I mean, so here are our two switch connectors. I'll just give those a quick clean down just to help them make electrical connection. Here's our shutter release, and I still can't quite see what's going on there, but all the springs and everything seem to be intact. And that is what frees up the shutter. And that is supposed to push it back, as far as I can see. There it is. So we can see now that when that goes back, it clips behind. There's a little clip just here. There it is. And when I press it, there we go. So to recock it, that has to roll all the way back. So rotate it the correct direction, and this little lever here pushes against this and tries to push it back into place. Like that. And now it works again. So rotate that the right way. And now that stops this moving any further. When I turn this, a tooth on this plastic wheel engages with this and tries to push the mechanism back into place. So let me just push on there. Oh, that is tight. It's not going to go. It doesn't want to go. So what stops that from moving is this piece just here, which I think is connected to this pin just here. Which hits against a block that's in the back there. So you'd think that that pin would now have moved out of the way, but it hasn't. It's still right there, just blocking this. So what's stopping that going where it's supposed to go? So I can see if I look down in here, let's see if I can just get it any closer. I'll have to come back out again because I'm losing focus there, just there. So if I look down into, so this is the piece that prevents the wind on. So it goes down here and it has a stop just here in the bottom. I pointed it correctly there, in there. And there's a gap. So I would kind of expect this to be going further back, but it won't go further back. Now, one of the mechanisms for that will of course be the door. So if I cock that like that, it still doesn't move as far as it's meant to. Is that a problem with this shutter? Lifting sufficiently. Let's see how much that moves if I put the film in. Come out. Oh, that moves perfectly now, look at that. So, little slots in here, which I won't be able to show you because I won't be able to feed it back sufficiently, I don't think. But for each frame there's a little slot, so that little lever that now moves freely will drop into that. So I'm not quite sure what's moved there. Clearly something has just freed up. So I think that this was stuck down a little bit, so that would have been impeding things a bit, but not that much. Okay, seems to be okay. So we'll just wind this on. There we go. Ready. There we go, you can see the mechanism. There it is. And the shutter's ready to go. You can just see that down here. Press the shutter, releases that. And this is now completely happily floating around as it should do. So I'm just cleaning these with isopropyl alcohol in the normal way. And there are spikes on this side that correspond, which I will also clean. I'm just going to use my scalpel and lightly scrape off this excess glue. Just so that I have a nice fresh surface to glue on the next time. So I'll use a very thin film of epoxy resin in there when I come to do that part. Still a bit of which on the back here that I just need to remove. Okay, so that's ready to go, and we'll have this piece glued onto it. Now I just need to also just remove that bit of glue and corrosion that's on the inside of here. Okay, there's a little slot in the top there, there's a spring on this, and that slot goes onto that. So now we're ready to insert 2 screws. And because I've positioned them carefully on my layout card, I know what goes where. Whoops. Shit. Hang on, did you get that? Let me just pop those off again, make sure I position that correctly. Yep, it's fine. So I think the top goes on first, like that. Yeah, nice and good. And I'm using, oh, what am I using? I'm using a 00 sized posi drive tip. So I think we're now in a position to pop this on. Just need to get it lined up neatly. And yes, I can see the slot there. There it is. So refitting this actually causes it to stop working again, and that's because if it's not fitted on nice and square onto the kind of retaining lugs, then it distorts, it throws everything off center. And I think this is what probably happened to it in the first place. So nothing for it but to pop it off again and reset everything and take more care adding it on. So I suspect originally there was an impact on the top of that winder, and that's kind of thrown everything out of place. And that's all we've really corrected, just moving everything back into its proper place to get the thing to work again. Good. So I think that had pulled out of centre, and that's what had actually done it. It kind of allowed things to jam. So bizarrely, I mean, they have literally put that screw in at a slight angle. So I said this was a 00, but in fact I think it's a 0. Probably dry 0, yeah. I might have to try 1. Just see if I get better grip on that particular screw. Yeah, that's better. Right, cool. and the locking mechanism works just fine now. It worked before, but it was a little bit loose, but now it's good and firm. Happy with that. I'm not entirely convinced with the light proofness of this piece just here, but you know, it'll have multiple rims going around there, so, and yeah, it's got a long way to go in order to get its light through there, back there, and onto the film. So I imagine that's all right, really. I haven't used any felt or anything, clearly. So this piece of trim, no tabs or anything to hold it in place, it's just these two screws. And a little bit of bent metal here just to kind of index it, so to speak. But that said, it fits very nicely. A couple of scuffs up here, but you'd need a plastic polish to remove these. They're not just muck, they're actual, you know, scuffs from handling and dropping and things like that. Let's take a look at this side then. Let's just make sure before I assemble this that I understand how it goes together. Okay, so we just need to position that clip in first, blinking thing. So I don't need a stack of glue on here. The aim is really just to hold the piece of metal in place. I'm putting a similar blob onto what Kodak did. Now the side holds okay, but the top requires holding. Well, I'm holding it with one finger. Let's get this missing split. That's not quite ready to go in yet. Back in again. The bar is last dust out. That is done. So there we have it. One reassembled, now working Instamatic C33 from Kodak. Pretty old-fashioned camera, completely mechanical, of course. But a good bit of fun to just open it up and see how that all worked. And yeah, and now it's working absolutely fine. Wind on. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, only two settings, of course, sunny or shade will flash. And a very little pair of contacts there for the flash. I wonder if they actually work. Haven't tested them, because there was no way I was going to delve into the mechanics there and see, but so I've got my multimeter connected up. We will put the two probes on. One here, one here. There you go. Simple as that. Wind on again. Nice little refurbish. Yeah, it's pretty clear through the viewfinder now. I suppose my bad eyesight's going to work anyway. And yeah, so in terms of the 126 film, you can't of course get newly manufactured 126 film anymore in these cartridges, but there are a number of enthusiasts and a few small businesses that wind 35mm film into these cases, so yeah. And there are one or two places that offer film development for it, but it is a bit pricey. So it's certainly for the enthusiast. That is for certain. I'm just going to give the case a little wipe over, and I'll call it a day. Hope you enjoyed that, hopefully see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and bye for now. Take care.